Basically, we learn about Central Authentication Service, LDAP, and basically CAS is a single sign-on protocol for the web. So you can access multiple applications, but sign in only once, and you don't need to provide your credentials every time to each application. So basically, it has like three parties, which is the client web browser, the application you are accessing, and the CS server. So when you access an application, the application in turn redirects you to the CS server. You provide your credentials, and the CS server will provide you a ticket which you can send to the application, and the application can then verify that ticket with the CS server. So in this tutorial, in this lab, there are three parts. So the first one is setting up the CS server. So basically, we use Tomcat and the Jazzig Cache web app. So basically, firstly we set up Tomcat to we configure it and basically set up HTTPS. So for that we need a public and private key first of all. So we using the key tool, we generate the public and private key, and you can see the command here which generates a key using RSA, and it takes all the information which is required basically to generate a public key certificate. Secondly, we download the Jazzig web app and copy it into the web app folder of Tomcat, and then we restart the Tomcat servlet engine. So, and lastly, we configure IP tables to route all HTTPS requests, which is on port 443 to port 8443, which we have configured for Tomcat. So basically, all HTTPS requests would go to Tomcat. And here you can see that once we have done that, once we've configured Tomcat and copied the Jazzig web app, we can access the cache server using the web browser. Secondly, the second part involves configuring the LDAP server. Now, LDAP is a lightweight directory access protocol. So it's basically used for directories wherein it is optimized for reads, like multiple reads. So something like your credentials, you don't change often, but you read it many times. So it's basically the directory is LDAP is optimized for reading, and which makes it really fast for storing credentials and things like that for authentication purposes. So here we just see how to configure Open LDAP, which is an LDAP implementation. So firstly, we install Open LDAP, and we basically first here you can see basically we install Open LDAP with the default configuration. So the default directory structure is saved, and so you can see when we do LDAP search and DC localhost DC/lab03, which I had entered in the default configuration for the domain names. So we can see it gives us 2 entries. Secondly, we add a few more entries to the LDAP directory. So basically you can see here there are 3 entries here, and like LDAP is object oriented, so I mean each entry has an object class and attributes, and so here you can see we have a project account which is username and password, and stores things like email, postal code and stuff. So basically it's a user object, kind of a user object. So basically we add all the entries in the entry.ldif and then load all the entries into the LDAP directory. And then we can see if you search for entries which we've added, you can see that it returns a few entries here. So basically all those entries have been loaded. And basically this LDAP can be used with the CSE server. So basically we can store all credentials in our LDAP directory, and the cache server can authenticate using the LDAP directory. And lastly, we configure a web application which communicates with the cache server. So for that we require Apache, which is HTTP web server application, MySQL, which is a database, and we use PHP as the backend scripting language. So firstly we install Apache and configure the server name as localhost, since since the localhost will be a web application. So after that we install MySQL and basically just log into MySQL and check if it's installed correctly. Secondly, we install PHP, and to test that we create a basic PHP page which just displays all your PHP version information, and you can see once I do that I can access the PHP info page. So basically you create that page in Apache's default directory, and you can access that directly then. Secondly, we test the connection to the MySQL database. For that we create another PHP page which just connects to the MySQL database and prints a message, and here you can see it's successfully connected. Lastly, we download a PHP page which is basically a Jazik cache client, and we put it in the Apache root directory again. So now when you access this web app, basically you will get the Jazik login page here, and you can enter your credentials and log in there successfully. So and suppose if you have another application, then you don't need to log in again basically, so you can pass the ticket returned to you by the Jazik server to the new web application, and I mean it'll confirm that with the cache server, and you don't need to give your credentials again. So that's a single sign-on basically. Okay, that's it.